everybody, I'm Jammer, and today I have something a little different for you. Ever since I was young, I always thought to myself, what if Smash Bros. Wasn't actually a collaboration between all of Nintendo's series? What if it was just centered on one series? I mean, yes, the appeal of Smash Bros. Is the fact that you can play as both Mario and Zelda and Pikachu all in one game and fight them together. What if there was a fighting game solely based on a certain series of characters? For example, being a just Mario Fighters, or a roster full of just Pokemon. Today I thought we could take that idea and kind of elaborate off it and kind of make a mock roster of what if Smash Bros. Was a Zelda game. If you guys really end up enjoying this video, perhaps later in the future, we could do another follow-up to this video, perhaps focusing on a different series next time, whether it be Pokemon, Kirby, or whatever you guys want. You could let me know in the comments below. Without further ado, let's just get started. Now, first off, I think it's quite obvious, or at least it should be obvious, that all the characters that already are Zelda reps in Smash Bros. As it is now, they're going to be in the Zelda Smash Bros. too. We'll quickly go through all those characters, but there are a couple of additions I do want to add in the inclusion of those characters. So first off, of course, Breath of the Wild Link. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. Link is going to be the figurehead of this series, and there's already, there's 3 clones of him in Smash already. Well, if it's a Zelda Smash Bros., you can bet there's going to be even more than that. We also, of course, can't forget young Link. Of course, he's going to be here with him, in addition to, of course, Toon Link, and that's it. So here are the 3 Links that are already in Smash Bros. We got the Breath of the Wild Link, Young Link, and Toon Link. It only makes sense, of course, those 3 would all come because they're also great perfect representatives, of course. Breath of the Wild, Young Link for, Ocarina of Time and whatnot, as well as Toon Link representing, Toon Link games. But I think they could definitely add at least one more other version of Link here. Because while a lot of them could get alt costume palette swaps, whether it be Dark Link, Fierce DD Link, I don't think those characters would necessarily need to be full-blown characters. Being costume swaps are totally fine. But if we had to add at least one new edition of Link, I think adding a classic Link would be a really cool inclusion. But because then it's really spanning all the different incarnations of Link we've had so far. We got, Breath of the Wild Link representing that, Young Link representing, the older 3D Zeldas, Toon Link, of course, representing the Toon Link era of games, and then now we have a classic Link, being more representative of the 2D style of Zelda games. Perhaps in his moveset, he could use some of the more iconic weapons from those games, like, for example, the magic wands, maybe even like the little fairy dust from Link to the Past. I could think he'd be a collaboration of items and stuff from, Link to the Past, Oracle games, as well as the new Link's Awakening game. I don't want to go too overboard on just Links, but I think this would be a really great newcomer to the Zelda Smash Bros. Game to represent that era of this series. Next up, we'll move on to Zelda. Of course, the Zelda we currently have in Smash Ultimate will return as she already is, but perhaps maybe we might be changing her down B. The reason I say that, perhaps we could be adding a Toon Zelda, her own character, to better represent Zelda using, the Phantom armor itself, but as I kind of think about it more, it's like, okay, Zelda already offers all the magic abilities she could to the table, and the only other thing unique I could see her doing is they could kind of go Hyrule Warriors on him and bring in the Dominion Rod, but, I mean, she doesn't really canonically use that besides in Hyrule Warriors. So, really, besides the Phantom armor, what really makes Toon Zelda unique, besides just, it's Toon Zelda, right? So perhaps rather than Toon Zelda at all, we bring in what you probably all expected, Tetra, one of the most beloved characters in the Legend of Zelda series. Admittedly, a character definitely preferred over even Toon Zelda herself. It's a very unique way to represent Zelda. It's her kind of her alter ego similar to what Sheik is, but a totally different take on it. Rather than being a ninja, this time she's this pirate, swashbuckling pirate. She could definitely have a really unique moveset using her blunderbuss as well as her pirate sword. But I think an item that would be really cool incorporating in her moveset that Toon Link actually uses in Wind Waker, but the grappling hook as like a tether recovery or something like that, or even using it as like to grab people and pull you closer. I think that'd be super cool. I briefly mentioned it, but we might as well put Sheik right in here. Of course, Sheik's going to return as she does, and I don't think we really need any other iteration of Sheik. Definitely, this Sheik could have alternate costumes of Ocarina of Time and other incarnations of Sheik, but Sheik's just going to be Sheik. Okay, let's move on to Ganondorf. Of course, we will get the ultimate version of Ganondorf as he currently is. He's beautiful and perfect and uses his sword. I love him. But I think we could see some new additions of Ganon because he's taking a lot of different forms over the year. First off, I think it'd be super cool if we saw some sort of Pig Ganon. Yes, the current Ganondorf uses Pig Ganon as his final smash, as well as he does appear as a boss himself in the campaign of Ultimate and whatnot. But I think it'd be really cool to see an actual moveset based on a big, bulky Ganon character, really iconic of the original Zelda games, because that's what he primarily appeared as, just a big bestial character. Since there's an absence of a character like Bowser or a big heavy hitter or big bulky character like that already in this roster, I think he'd be a great pick for a character to kind of suit that kind of role. He can use a mix of both magic moves as well as brute powerful strength using like a trident or other weapons like that. In addition to Pig Ganon, I think it'd be super cool to also see Toon Ganon, kind of bringing in the trifecta, the Triforce of the Toon characters as well. We got Toon Link, Tetra, and now Toon Ganon as well. I think it'd be really cool to see him using the dual wielding katana swords, and he'd be an interesting character because, I mean, who else really dual wields in this series, let alone in Smash Brothers? It's really funny to see a kind of speedy, a quick attacking character, but he's also still a big bulky dude. And of course, one of his special moves would have to be the backhand slap. So I think that's enough of the characters that are already in Smash. Now let's talk about characters that would be brand new to this Zelda Smash Bros. Game. It's kind of obvious, but I think Impa definitely deserves a slot here in the roster. She's an iconic character, has reoccurred, and has wielded a variety of different weapons. I mean, look how she plays in Hyrule Warriors, using her big fat sword or the long spear. She's an iconic character of the series, and it would only make sense to have her here as well. Another thing they can take a little bit more advantage here of it being a Zelda-centered game is they can more represent the different kind of races of people that are in the universe. You know, the Gorons, the Zora, and whatnot. And I think it only makes sense to have at least one representative from each of those races to show off here in the game. For the Gorons, it's obvious that they choose Darunia, and of course for the Zoras being Princess Ruto. While I could see them using the mask transformations from Majora's Mask being the characters, I don't know, maybe perhaps young Link himself has some sort of change to his moveset where he can use different side smash and special moves to then use each equipped mask power. And while those mask transformations, of course, very popular, I think these characters are much more popular. But to not rule out Majora's Mask entirely, I'll put Deku Link in here, because why not? You could see some cool little spin moves. It'd be kind of an interesting character. I could see him kind of being like the Pichu character, where he's super light, considered kind of a joke, but maybe he does have obscene combos, and he's actually maybe a high tier character or something like that, and he can use his bubble projectiles to space people out. It all would depend, of course, if young Link got a fully overhauled moveset being more in line with the Majora's Mask incarnation, or if they kept it similar to what we already kind of have in Ultimate. And while we're on the topic of Majora's Mask characters, I think it's quite obvious who should be a character. And that is, of course, the Skull Kid. An ever-claimed character, a potentially leaked one during the early days of Ultimate. Skull Kid, of course, would get a slot here in this game. He's one of the most popular villains of the franchise that isn't Ganondorf. He could have a lot of unique magic attacks, and of course for his final smash, he's gonna rip the moon down from the stratosphere and just smash everything. Of course, it just writes itself, doesn't it? But you know what? I think there's another character from Majora that deserves a slot here that is quite a popular character, but maybe not one you would expect here in a fighting game. And that, of course, is the Happy Mask Salesman. The quote, "You met a terrible fate, haven't you?" comes directly from him, and I think he could have a really interesting moveset using the mask mechanics that were in Majora's Mask. Perhaps he could equip different masks and use them as basically kind of Shulk's Monado art. Perhaps he equips the stone mask and he can become invisible temporarily. Or if he puts on the bunny hood, he can do an accelerate and run on the stage really quickly. I think there could be a lot of unique mechanics they could work with using the different masks he could switch between. And he would just be such a wonky character, especially with his giant backpack for a hitbox. I could see him just taking everything off and just swinging people and just slamming on the ground for a smash attack. I think it'd be hilarious. Going down the line, moving on from Majora's Mask, of course, we have to talk about Twilight Princess, and you all know what character it's gonna be. And that is, of course, Midna, one of the most popular characters in this series. As you can see her taking a similar form to what she did in Hyrule Warriors. I mean, they could just go the route of how she is in the assist where she kind of just floats around the stage and uses her giant arm as a weapon. Or it could see somehow incorporating her actually riding a Wolf Link, whether it being an actual Wolf Link, or even the little spectral ones that she used to ride in Hyrule Warriors. She'd be a really unique character, and personally a character I'd love to see in real Smash Bros. But it wouldn't be a Zelda Smash Bros without, of course, Midna. Another character from Twilight Princess I think would fit in well here would be, of course, Zant. You've already seen the crazy kind of stuff he can do in Hyrule Warriors, spawning those giant towers, just being a maniac going around the stage. And I think his personality would translate into a fighting game extraordinarily. Similar to how Incineroar, for example, after every smash attack, either successful or failed, he actually does like a taunt or kind of like, you know, is sad that he misses. I think Zant could do something totally similar where he like taunts after every single move he does, whether it be like a jab, smash attack, and of course these would all be cancelable, but I think it'd be hilarious just to completely express his personality in just the most Zanny way possible and make him one of those absolute BS characters that just pull out the most random janky hitboxes, stupid projectiles, and just be one of the characters in this game where it's like, everyone just hates Zants because Zant mains are just the scum of the earth because they're just the most crazy characters to play against. Then one final character from Twilight Princess, not 100% sold on her, but because I don't want to just seem like I'm just stealing the roster from Hyrule Warriors, but at the same time, a lot of the characters who are in Hyrule Warriors are some of the most popular Zelda characters, so it's like, there's gonna be some overlap. Agatha could definitely have a role here in this game, but I'm not 100% sold on her. I might actually remove her as the video goes on. She could, of course, use her little Pikmin basket and just whack people to death with it, and use different kind of bugs in her attacks, like maybe like a giant butterfly for her up B recovery and stuff like that. Let's move on to Skyward Sword. I think it's quite obvious what characters are gonna come from here. We always have Fi as well as Giraham, the two probably most popular characters from that game. It'd be really cool to see Fi kind of like dance across the stage, basically. I could totally imagine her doing her little spirally stuff as she like does her dash dancing across it, you know, moving around, and like I could really see her moveset being super fluid and like just like kind of looks like she's just like effortlessly moving across the stage, you know. While of course Giraham on the other hand uses a ton of knives and stupid projectiles, and I could see him kind of being like a Simon or a Richter, where he just has an obscene amount of projectiles using his knives and stuff, to the point where people just like hate him. People hate him. But there is one character from Skyward Sword that isn't represented in Hyrule Warriors, and that is of course Grooze. Grooze, the man himself, Grooze. I think he would be a fantastic representative, and I think who he should play like the most would be like a super fast Captain Falcon-like action hero character. I think Grooze is the character that's going to have the hype clips. He's going to have some sort of knee of justice thing, just like Captain Falcon, as well as some sort of big, huge sock. Not necessarily a copy and paste of Falcon Punch, but something to the effect of where it's just like, if you get hit by that, it's the most ultimate disrespect. You just got KO'd by Grooze. Like, how does that make you feel? He would be one of those hilarious characters that people would unironically main because he'd be pretty good anyways. So backing up a bit, I want to talk about some characters from Wind Waker. We only kind of mentioned Tetra, of course, Toon Ganon, but I think there are some other characters that are worth being in this game. First up, of course, is Medli. To give a representative to, of course, Ritos, and she'd be a really interesting rep. Not only using her wings as like spinning attacks as well as in her up B and stuff, but she could also use her harp and use kind of like music-based attacks for like music note projectiles or just, I don't know, whacking him over the head with it. She's probably the more popular of the two of Link's companions throughout the game. Probably more popular than Makar. I could put Makar here. I mean, why not? We got plenty of room on the thing here. But if I had to pick between the two, I think I'd go Melody first. You know what? Why not? Let's just have both. A Makar, of course, would be just super light. He would be like a cotton ball. Maybe he dies at like 60% or something stupid. He'd be kind of like the Jigglypuff of this game. So perhaps he does have some sort of ridiculously crazy move like Rest that just can like home run bat people off the cliff if you can land it perfectly or whatever. He'd also have, of course, a lot of jumps using like leaf propeller thing. But I'd also think it'd be kind of funny if he had some sort of like Little Mac qualities where like some of his moves just did no damage whatsoever because he's just like such a little light feather of a character, you know? Let's not forget, of course, Tingle. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be the Toon version of him, but it would not be a Zelda Smash Bros. Game without, of course, the madman himself, Tingle. I think it'd be really cool to like build off the idea of his balloons, you know, and make a moveset around that. Like, of course, maybe like make him be able to drop bombs and stuff from the top of the stage, but I think it'd be really cool to see he's like a character that can just stay in the air a ridiculous amount of time. He just kind of can just float and glide around the stage. But to counter that, maybe he's like ridiculously slow on the ground. He just like kind of flails around, you know, but like once he's in the air, he's a madman gliding around the stage with his balloon. But if you hit him from above, everything could backfire and the balloon could pop and he could just like spiral down no matter what. He'd be like a risk reward character where he's just insane aerial game, but he's got one massive Achilles heel. And I think to round off the Wind Waker characters, I think King Daphnis or the King of the Red Alliance character would of course make sense here too. I like the approach of how they had it, of course, in Hyrule Warriors, where he was like the boat as well as the king at the same time, because the boat, and obviously, is the more iconic character of the game than King Daphnis is himself, you know? So maybe we just make the boat the character in the first place. It's just some janky boat moving around the stage, hitting people with his sail. I don't know. This would be kind of a weird character to translate into a Smash Bros. Kind of game, but he is, of course, a very iconic character in the series, so I'm just gonna put him in the roster, why not? So we've done a good job covering the bases of a lot of the most popular characters in a lot of the different games. So I think now I'm just gonna kind of go piecemeal to fill out the rest of the roster, just picking out other popular characters I can think of. First off, of course, is the Great Fairy. I mean, Great Fairies are nearly in every single Zelda game. It would only make sense to see her as a character. It doesn't matter really which incarnation it is. They all generally kind of the same. She could be kind of like Rosalina, except, well, maybe even with the Luma. She could use like one of the little tiny bottle of fairies, you know, to have floating around with her as like a puppet character. But the reason I relate to her is kind of her overall aesthetic, where, you know, she floats across the stage. She's kind of like a floaty character. Can use like magical kind of projectiles and stuff. And maybe her final smash is she just grabs you and, like in Breath of the Wild, she just pulls you into her little pot and you just like drowned in there forever and you die. And you die. Now, it would be an absolute sin if this character didn't make it in. And that is, of course, Beetle. Beetle needs to make it here in the Zelda Smash Bros. Game. He's a reoccurring character as a shopkeeper, right? And I think the unique part about him would be his item management. Perhaps he takes some tributes, of course, from maybe Villager, where we can pocket stuff and return it later. But I think it'd be really cool to see him using a lot of different kind of miscellaneous items you get in Zelda games. Perhaps like DDD's old Psybe, where he kind of randomly throw just random stuff, whether it be Waddle Dee, Waddle Doo, or a Gordo. He could just throw like random junk he has lying around, like whether it be a bundle of arrows, a couple of bombs, or better yet, what if he just throws rupees everywhere? Like, rupees is his main moveset. Or maybe like kind of like the turnip system for villagers, you know, if for his aerial attacks, like green does minimal on damage, blue does like medium, and like red does the really powerful amount of damage with his attacks. So he's like, he fights with money. Like, how funny would that be? While we're on the topic of absolutely ridiculous characters, Cuckoo. Cuckoo needs to be a character in this game. He could have some sort of like KO meter similar to what Little Mac has, right? Where if he builds up enough rage, he can summon a bunch of Cuckoos to just go absolutely mad on the opponent. And it builds up based on how much damage you actually get taken. So it kind of builds off of that game mechanic of, you know, if you attack a Cuckoo, you're good as dead, man. So I think it'd be kind of cool to incorporate that into his moveset, kind of intentionally trying to take damage to build up your meter so you can use an all-out attack on someone. Or maybe even make it more like Cloud's Limit, where you could just kind of charge it up and it has different kind of uses based on which directional input you use the B button, whether it be side B, neutral, up, and etc. The Cuckoo is an iconic character in the Zelda series, and it would be a shame to not have him playable here. And he'd be a ridiculous character. Yes, I know, but I'd probably main him. Oh my gosh, one character I totally forgot to talk about. Hello, Link's Awakening is literally out now. Is of course Marin. I mean, duh, she's super popular. So of course she would be in maybe using her flute, as well as maybe like somehow using the Windfish in her final smash. I think it'd also be kind of cool to play tribute to that game when having all those like Mario enemies and stuff like that. Maybe like she has some sort of like Mario enemy abilities as well. Since the name of the game is, you know, Link's Awakening, it'd be kind of cool if she had like, you know, kind of Jigglypuff's sleep ability. You can like sing the song or play the flute, and you can set people to sleep, so you can set up for like combos and stuff like that. That'd be pretty cool too. Speaking of me literally forgetting characters, hello, Ravio. Very popular character, and kind of would be similar to what I was talking about with Beetle, using just crazy amount of items, but maybe more in line with some of the 2D games, like using hammers, as well as like maybe boomerangs and stuff like that. And we can't, of course, forget Yugo, using the paintbrush and the mirror, of course, with his attacks. I think it'd be actually kind of cool if like the final smash, well, I guess Ultimate kind of changed it so all final smashes are a single attack. But if it was like, you know, Brawl days, you know, where the final smashes were all weird. What if his final smash just turned everyone into like a paper version of the character? And so their knockback was like, you know, you could knock him out really easy. So all you had to do is get up to him, you know. So kind of cast a spell on like the whole stage, and everyone's like walking around as these little paper characters, you know. And you just go up quickly, just one big smash and just take him out. That'd be hilarious. That'd be absolutely hilarious. We are down to the last 4 characters of the roster. And I think there is a definite lacking of a certain game here. And that is, of course, Breath of the Wild. I mean, we only have one character from that game. The obvious inclusion would be some of its champions. We have Darunia, and I don't know how much it would differentiate from, you know, I guess the Druk has the big hammer, but I think Darunia is more of an iconic, like, Goron character. In addition to Mipha, well, she could use, like, a trident, for example, but I think Ruto is the better choice anyways. A completely unique character, though, would be, of course, Urbosa. We don't have any other Gerudos in this entire roster here, and she's probably the most popular Gerudo at this point. Some could argue saying that, you know, the Gerudo that was one of the sages in Ocarina of Time, but I feel like Urbosa is a much more iconic character on the whole. She really represents the Gerudo fighting style, using like spears as well as her sword, and would be really cool if she could incorporate her magical ability being like the, you know, summon lightning thing. Perhaps it kind of works similar to how Robin and his tombs work, to kind of build off the mechanic that's in Breath of the Wild, where, you know, you have a limited number of uses of your lightning abilities until it wears out, and you have to wait a certain amount of time for it to recharge. Something similar could be to her lightning attack. She could maybe infuse lightning into her sword or her special moves, but if you use too much of it, you have to kind of wait for it to build back up. You know, similar to how the tombs work for Robin. Yeah, I think she would be a fantastic pick from Breath of the Wild. Beyond her, the obvious other inclusion, of course, would be Revali. Yes, we already have a Rito character in this game, but Melody and Revali couldn't be more different, you know? It'd be really cool to see him be able to use his, like, Revali's Gale, and, like, perhaps he has, like, a move where he can get quick into the air really fast as his up B, you know? And his moveset's entirely built around, you know, using the bow and arrow as not only projectiles, but maybe, like, short-range, like, spread shots and stuff. Not to make him entirely OP, where he just, like, has a ridiculous amount of projectiles. Or maybe we just do that. Maybe we just make him just so broken using nothing but a bow and arrow just to space people out and just like snipe them. I think it'd be so awesome to see him like go super deep off stage and like shooting arrows to keep people off and then somehow make it back using a super giant glide back to the stage. He'd be one of those flashy characters using projectiles and flying all around the stage. We are down to the final two. The final two characters for this roster. You know, to be honest, these are all really the characters I had planned for, so I guess I had a couple of spaces. Alright, time for some joke characters. The epitome of joke characters, of course, King Bulbin. Yes! Yes! His side B could be him riding his hog. He could use his giant club and maybe like kick a giant barrel of a bomb across the stage as a projectile. He'd be like a heavy hitter, super slow. He'd be like basically like melee Bowser, where he's kind of just trash, but some people for some reason play him because he's just so ridiculous. And finally, the most iconic character in the entire Zelda series, I would be just shocked if this character did not make it in. And that is, of course, oh cool. Oh my god, get that thing off my screen! That would be, of course, Navi. I don't know how you would even make a moveset for Navi, but who doesn't know the "Hey Listen" meme? That is a meme that has probably transcended the Zelda series. Perhaps she just attacks by nagging the other player, and that's it. Just to the point where they have to just rage quit because they're so annoyed by her. I honestly have no idea how you'd incorporate her as a fighter, but you can't argue to say that she's not one of the most popular characters in the Zelda series. So that is my Zelda Smash Bros. Roster. Some other additions I didn't kind of include here that they could also put in would be maybe some like miscellaneous enemies like a Bokoblin, very iconic, or a Lizardos, or like maybe even the flying ones. Beyond that, an Octorok, or even maybe a Redead or something. But you know, at the same time, those could be maybe just like stage hazards or stuff that come out of assist trophies more likely. I honestly can't think of any other super iconic characters that would make any more sense than all the ones that are already represented here. So I think this would be a solid Zelda fighting game. So if it was up to you to choose the Zelda Smash Bros. Roster, what characters would you choose? Let me know that in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big awesome like. And if you haven't already, definitely subscribe for tons more fake Smash Bros. Rosters. I mean, if you guys enjoy this, I'll be happy to do another one. I'd love to expand upon this idea with like other series. I think a Pokemon one would be super cool, kind of representing each generation as well as other trainers and stuff. So if you want to see a video like that, definitely let me know that in the comments as well. Thanks again, guys, so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!